want. Call it
I don't
whatever
really
you
have.
want.
Yeah, so we are officially live, it says. I'm going to find the thing so I can pop up in the chat. Welcome back. As you can see, well, we'll wait till we get everybody on so I can get the chat going. So we have no one watching yet, so we're safe. We can say whatever we want.
Well, I don't know what my drug dealer's doing, but
yeah,
the
exactly.
quality of cocaine lately is just amazing.
Oh, good, excellent.
Yeah, it's like the quality it's increased tremendously.
Good deal. We got people starting to show up. Welcome, welcome to the Prepper Trifecta. We may actually have the try this time.
That's actually what you called it too. We'll do it live.
Yeah, exactly. So we might actually we're planning on having a guest show up about 20 or 30 minutes from now potentially to talk about. Did you have a topic of interest that you wanted to go over with them?
Great question. Do I specifically? No, let's jam it. I mean, we've got starters, everybody that's showing up here at 9 right now. I mean, I gotta get used to this new mic.
Well, first of all, you guys may notice some fresh looks. Shay has a nice clean do. I've got a beautiful new backdrop. We're just nothing but fresh looks tonight.
I got red pilled. I joined Fight Club.
There you go. So people were grabbing your hair, so you had to cut it.
I didn't have a choice really. I'm just forced into it. I like let's start to the story with your backdrop here. That's awesome. So
I used to have this a while back, and for those of you who can't tell, it's actually a cloth.
No, you shouldn't have done that. Because it looks real.
It does look. It looks very real. But I need some ideas for some cool stuff to put on my shelves here. So maybe some silver bars, maybe a gun or something like that.
You know what we could do? I mean, like there's some preppers out there that are like seriously full of shit. What you could do for fun is get like fake gold, fake silver, and like, you know what I mean? To make, here's my bar.
Like the chocolate coins and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're the hardcore badass mofo. How's my orientation? Should I?
That looks good to me. I mean, it's vertical right now.
That way? Or?
I don't know. If you try it the other way and see, it looks fine. It does have bars on the edges, but.
Does it? Good evening, everyone. Okay, so last week we weren't on. What I would advise people to do is check out preppertrifecta.com. I feel like a fucking infomercial. Preppertrifecta.com. That's where we list the countdown to the show. If a show is canceled, if we haven't done it in a few weeks, but we have upcoming guests, have a little photo, a link to their bio, things like that.
Yeah, like last week. Sorry, last week was. I had been planning on doing it before I remembered that it was 4th of July, so that got in the way, obviously. I'm going to turn a fan on really quick. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Sure. All right. I think this is a first in a long time for me, just being alone on the show. So yes, I did cut my hair.
It's been 115 degrees here in Vegas the past few days.
It was only 10 seconds. I was ready to take on the show.
It's just right there. I just got to turn it on.
Shay is a new man. Yes, thank you very much. I'm a new man. I am I'm going to go through a bit of we'll just call it, I'm going to do a live show in September where I'm sort of erasing, maybe that's not the best word, but it's going to be called The Great Reset. I think there's going to be a lot of changes coming up. I'll put it this way. With my Patreon members, those guys, they're just awesome. So it's a 3-month wait for the new material, and I created a Dark Prepper mindset not too long ago called No More Mr. Nice Guy. In a lot of respects, it's resonated very deeply into my personality with how I perceive a lot of things. So talk about abstract and incoherent discussion consistent with most of my titles. Anyways, Donna, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I wasn't too sure. I just, you know what? I was at the barber's place. The guy's like 60 years old.
He's one of those just gonna take a little bit off the top.
Yeah, well, there's like 30 photos on the wall, right? And I point to the one that I like, and right. And you figure if the guy's got experience, I said that one, and maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe he thought he heard like Top Gun or something, right? Because it's a little too short for me. I like the wavy space. That's my ramble, dude. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Like I said, it's been really warm here, but I had a good chill 4th of July. Just been kind of relaxing.
Well, goes on with 4th of July. You know, we've got fireworks here in Canada.
Yeah.
What do you Americans do?
Yeah, we blast off a lot of fireworks, of course. Illegally most of the time.
You guys,
the glorious history of ignoring absurd laws. You know?
You have better ones than we do.
Yeah, we get that.
No, Mark, don't go there.
Here's a good question. What's the haircut plans for both of you if shit hit the fan? Like legit though, yeah. If there was a serious shit hit the fan event, I wouldn't want to mess with hair.
Yeah, great. Finally, some questions that have to do with preparedness.
Yeah.
Instead of like rubber ducky. And
even if I had to use scissors, I would definitely want it to be at least short on the sides and everything. Like nothing that would get in the way or trap heat or anything like that.
Yeah. I think you got to look at this practically or logically. No, well, not you, Eric. I just mean like the audience or people in general. I mean, if SHTF, right. You've got the susceptibility to disease, bacteria growth, stuff like that. So you don't want to shave your head.
You don't want lice or anything like that.
Don't want lice, and then you've also got the fighting component as well. Anybody that's into MMA or martial arts or things like that. Yeah, it's all hair is. If you have no hair to grab, then there's no. That's a something you can remove from the equation. So I've got a buzzer, but you know what? Like a pair of scissors is gonna.
Even a knife, you could do it. Now the exception might be if I was like up in Canada or something and it was wintertime, I would probably let it grow out a lot more just for warmth.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And I always grow a beard. Usually usually got something going on there a little bit, I hear.
Oh, I've never actually shaved. This is the only thing that happens.
When I go hunting in November, I grow a beard every year. Because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, just on like the wind not hitting your face directly and things like that.
Yeah, big difference up here. Well, welcome everybody, Prepper Trifecta. We will be having a guest in later. Emergency survival tips. We had a panel with him shortly before going live, and he's on our chat room too. So I believe he's into crypto, and I'm sure the audience. I'm sure I'll have a few questions myself. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask us. And yeah, good evening, Destiny, Mark, Donna. Nice to see some regulars back here for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
So Donna, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said someone mentioned a question earlier too. I think it was emergency survival tips. Okay. Said, do 100%. You should do items that preppers shouldn't buy. That'd be an interesting topic we could talk about.
What's the question again? 100%.
Like, do some items that preppers should not buy.
Should not buy. Well, there's certain preppers out there that are famous YouTube channels. I would say certainly stay away from anything they promote.
One thing I've mentioned, I didn't necessarily say you shouldn't buy it because there's probably versions of them that are okay, but there's a few things that I think are very overrated. And yes. One of them is the entry-level basic bitch like hand crank flashlights.
Yes.
They're just garbage most of the time. Like the concept is fantastic, the idea, but I think in most situations it's much better to have a way to generate power and use that to just recharge rechargeable flashlights than it is to try to have the one. Now the exception might be if you have a kit that you're gonna want to leave maybe a cache in the woods or something, and you want to leave it like 100% leave it for years and be able to have it work when you get there. The problem is most of those flashlights are just utter garbage, and they break really quickly. They take a lot of almost constant cranking to get the light, things like that. So in general, I think as an idea, it's cool. In practical sense, they're way overrated. Like
absolutely correct, and similar in context with respect to some of these survival cards that you see with like 30 different items on them. I wouldn't say go out of your way to avoid them, but I mean, one of the big ones I see, this is a misconception with preppers, is any device with a solar panel on it. So as an example, like a portable light, maybe the hand crank light has a solar panel component, or a portable radio has a solar panel component. It's very deceiving
They're so small. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say deceiving. There's a lack of knowledge in the community because it's always less than 1 watt. It would take you,
Right.
like 5 days of pure, perfect sunlight on the right angle to get any juice, substantial juice to actually power it.
Exactly. And that was actually another item on my list was the battery specifically, like the battery packs to charge cell phones and stuff. And they'll have one like with a solar panel built in. The solar panel will be about that big. And like you said, it might be 1 or 2 watts. Yeah. And so even in the best of situations, they say it'll take 40 hours of direct sunlight to charge up the battery pack.
Yeah.
But what they don't tell you, well, I mean, they do kind of tell you, is that actually leaving the battery pack in the sun like that just destroys it to begin with, to have it warm up like that. And it tells you, don't leave the battery pack in direct sunlight, because it just wrecks it. And then you're like, well, I have to. So to charge it theoretically, it's a gimmick, and it's you know what I mean? It's
gimmick.
Yeah, it's totally a gimmick. The only way it would work is if you had a solar panel that you could plug into the battery pack, maybe even a little bigger, and then have it in the sun, have the battery pack in the shade. That's theoretically doable. But the ones with the solar panel built into it, it's a gimmick. I would never even factor that into your decision.
Absolutely. But people, most preppers, they don't go that. They don't think that. It's like their mind shuts off at a certain level of knowledge where they don't work with the practicality or skills. It's ironic we're talking about power because Eric and I as preppers, we certainly don't pause or stop in our adventures. So as an example, I've got I've just got a system here I'm playing with. This is actually probably
the battery and inverter.
Yeah, this would be a good place to start. Ironically, I just have it on the table here for another project, but start off with a battery and an inverter and figure out what you need to power from there. And if it's your phone and you got a battery pack, forget the solar panels on these battery packs because 99% of them are shit. I don't think I've ever seen a battery pack with a solar panel built in that is effective.
Right.
Learn about milliamps. What's your phone? What's a phone? It's 1800 milliamps. I know that's 1200 of the Baofeng UV5Rs, 1200, I believe.
Yeah, I think a standard battery pack, like one of the big ones, it's the size of a phone, might be like 4500, like 3000 to 4500 milliamps for the beefy one. And then it's got a tiny little solar panel on it. It's connected to it. So.
Yeah, which is it's not practical, but for the audience, I mean, break down the math. Okay, so if Eric is saying 4500, what's your phone? 2000. What does that mean? You've got over 2 full charges of your phone. Like literally break down the math of how much the capacity of the battery, and it can get very technical. But the point is, you're not going blind. You're not just buying a product. Oh, I got power. Here's my,
Whereas if you're talking about it for like a plug-in scenario, it'd be much better to get one 45-watt solar panel or something and hook it up to a battery, and then use that battery to charge the other batteries or something than to try to have it all. And in general, that's a concept that seems to be appealing to people, but is almost always a bad in execution, is the combo stuff. Like it's a combo this with charger and this, or it's a combo e-tool with this thing that flips out and this thing that screws on. And almost always those are poorly made and just don't function very well at doing any of the things that they're supposed to do. It's much better to find out what's really important, get a tool that's dedicated to that. Maybe it can serve a secondary function for doing 1 or 2 other things, but it's quality, than to try to get some cheap gimmicky tool that does 4 different things, 5 different things.
And overpriced as well.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff. I mean, I've got a lady on my Patreon, wonderful lady. And we've been conversing via email back and forth. And she's going on about how she wants to buy this particular solar power pack. And I won't, I don't want to bash any brands, but I mean, you could build. I've got one started right here. I've built these before. It's a very
buy a battery, an inverter, and
Yeah.
And I was actually
you could put it in a box and drill a little, 1/2-inch hole. Put your little 12 volts female connector there. I mean, the information's there. It's all out there in the web.
I was actually thinking about trying to, at some point soon, buy the components to build my own, one of those, because there's several now. Like I said, I'm not going to mention any by name because I would only just be remembering 1 or 2 of them off the top of my head. They're not necessarily the best or the worst, but it's just a built-in battery pack charger inverter thing and they're fairly expensive. A lot of these are somewhere around like $2,500. And I really think that if you just get a solar panel, an inverter, and a battery, you could do it for like $600 maybe, probably less.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, if you get 12-volt, appliances or things that use 12-volt electricity, you don't even have to have the inverter. You can just have the battery pack and the battery and the solar panel, and then run things off 12 volt too. So the inverter would only be for 110, which I do think is good to have a little one at least for charging flashlights, which almost always use regular. They don't use DC.
And absolutely. And in theory, maybe we'll do a little. I'll tell you when I'm finished my beer. Maybe we'll do an experiment to show you how you don't even need necessarily what's known as this is the male 12-volt connection, cigarette lighter connection, and the opposite end is the female. If you don't understand what that means, talk to your mother.
Go ask your mother.
So you go ask your mother. But maybe I'll do a live demo here just to show you how you don't necessarily need the female end. You can rig one of these up to a battery, any battery. Ideally, you want a deep cycle battery as opposed to a car battery, because car batteries are designed to sort of like start your car, open up the floodgates per se. So the plates, there's 4 plates inside standard 12-volt battery, car battery, and deep cycle batteries. Deep cycles are designed to go to zero with full power all the way to the end. So ideally, but good down
car batteries.
SHF,
car batteries, you could use them, but they won't last. They'll like they're made for a high initial load and then just to be kept topped off and not drained. So if you drain them, they won't work like a cell phone battery or something. If you drain them down and recharge them, they're not good for that many cycles before they won't hold a charge anymore. But they would still work. It's still a 12-volt battery, but to be able to have that longevity, you want to get a marine or a deep cycle battery.
Yes, correct. Destiny asks, thoughts on N-loop rechargeable batteries? I'm not familiar with N-loop.
No, those are just rechargeable, like little, like AAA, AA, things like that. I haven't had a lot of experience with them myself.
Their phrase, okay.
But they're just rechargeable batteries that are AA's, AAA's, things like that. I have heard a lot of people use them pretty successfully. So I haven't heard anything bad about them.
Yeah, I try to veer away from them. Most of my stuff is it's micro USB. Like the headlamp is micro USB.
Now it's a lot easier nowadays to find stuff that has the built-in rechargeable batteries. That you don't need those. But there's still a lot of flashlights that use a AAA battery or whatever. Like I think I have my little Meritac flashlight in my pocket that still uses one AAA. So for stuff like that, sure, yeah, I don't think they're a bad deal. They're not really that expensive as far as I remember. They're just not going to last forever. So just keep that in mind. But they're good for a number of cycles.
Yeah, and that's totally a legitimate good way to go. My approach was more just what's the word? Ease of. I just wanted one connector. So basically, 99% of my supplies, electrical supplies, plug-in situation, in a walk-in the floor situation is it plugs. I charge things with a micro USB, and that's it. So. An altruistic ape, with the exception of the Crovel, which is that shovel that, I bashed this guy up a bit, and I seen him at an expo there in Utah. Was it Utah? A few years back, but he's a nice guy. I forget his name. He was on Doomsday Preppers. He's the Tim Ralston. And I bashed him up on his Crovel a little bit, which is sort of this multi-tool. You've seen this thing with it's a shovel and it's a spike and it's this.
Oh, that's kind of what I was referencing. Any of these things that are designed to be like 18 different things, they usually are not that great.
Well, there was one particular feature where he suggested, well, this is, with this thing, you can jab a tire. And I'm thinking, I can't think of a lot of scenarios where you would wish to puncture a tire, because that creates a lot through, you're presupposing you don't want somebody to leave, or you're messing up somebody's day. So you're essentially engaging in a conflict. But above and beyond all that, I mean, how many tires do you think you're going to puncture in a
like a thing that comes up often in your life? Like, fuck, all my tools are just not great at puncturing all these tires I have. I have seen this video one time. It's on the internet somewhere of a security camera of some guy. It looked like it was in a foreign country, but there's a big truck like a big truck tire. And this guy was just being, I think he was, it looked like it was random, like he's just being a general dickhead, and he may have been targeting them, but he had this little like knife, and he went up and fucking tried to pop the tire. But he successfully popped the tire, but it was one of these huge industrial truck tires, and it just exploded, and it literally like blew his clothes off and threw him like 13 feet onto the steps, and he was like totally fucked up, probably dead, but it was like instantaneous. He was like, boom, and his shirt's like lying over there, and he's just like all twisted up. So I wouldn't just go popping tires haphazardly either, because that could be.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah, someone mentioned, I was just gonna say this. It's easier to cut the valve stem. Yeah, just rip the fucking stem off, and and that's a lot harder to fix too. A lot of times, you can. I mean, a knife thing would be tough, a big wound. But if you like puncture a tire with a nail, you can patch that with a pretty normal plug. But if you cut the valve off, like that's a pain in the ass.
That's no kidding. You gotta take it off the rim. Yeah, it's done. Yeah, it's done. No kidding. Well, you just put the Crowville out of
business. They even have tools where you can you can screw out the middle of the stem if you need to. And it won't even be cut, so it won't even look like sabotage. And then all of a sudden, be like, oh, fuck, this tire.
And then he's playing with the pump trying to inflate.
Yeah, and it's like things broken. Right, like, what's the problem? Because they don't even know. Yeah,
that's what's going on here. I wonder if Tim's got something about. Like, I'm not bashing Tim. I did bash. Well, he's a nice guy. Tim, if you ever watch this, dude.
I definitely am guilty of this myself too. I just kind of realize it when it's happening. But as preppers, we sort of get all these what if scenarios in our head. And it's funny the way that some people fixate on some as seeming like, oh, this is definitely going to be a thing I have to deal with. And they just kind of fixate on this as like, oh, this is going to happen. No one else is prepared for this one specific circumstance kind of thing. And it's different for every person what that may be, but it seems like we all have some of those. I don't know.
Elaborate. What do you mean?
Like that scenario, like your mind starts coming up with scenarios about like, tire. Okay. Oh, we're gonna have to puncture tire, and then your mind starts going off in all this direction of how to fix that problem and solve it.
Yes, I know. For it. Most of the situations I've heard over the years through preppers is they're like batshit crazy ideas, like puncturing. Oh, we need to make sure we got a way to puncture a tire. No offense.
Actually, first of all, it's not that hard to do.
It's retarded. And you know, I should say, okay, look at. You got to give Tim credit. He's thinking. He wants to get in the business. Right. He wants to manufacture products. He's sitting down on the drawing board. He's trying to think of different ideas to bring something to market for the preparedness role. I keep on going back to this expo. There's one expo I was at where there was a privacy. I mocked it. I made a video mocking all these shitty products, and there was something you wore around you, like a hula hoop, but it was telescopic and had a fabric.
So you could it was like.
Yeah, so you can take a dump in the woods without people seeing you.
Without seeing you actively shit, they'll still see you. See you like freak out and stuff.
Yeah, they can hear, right? There's
what are you doing? They're taking a shit? And you're like, yes, you're taking a shit.
With grunting.
So you can do other things too, I imagine.
Yeah, well,
a little bit of privacy.
I don't know if they want to, use that same apparatus for other things. Yeah, bring a girl. Hey, hey, I got a spot. We can go.
Right now.
Wow.
You see the tent just like shaking. You're just like holding the top of this tent.
Right, yeah. Maybe they've got a double sized one.
Yeah, right. A two-person privacy tent.
That's funny.
Oh man.
Oh, there you go. You know what? We should.
That's my next product. I'm writing it down.
Bring that to market.
The Rule the Wasteland two-person privacy tent.
Put it over your head and drop it down and.
Oh, hey, you got some props for. Says Chase has really upped his audio game. He has. Sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Not only does it look more technical,
it's to make me look cool.
And it's not even plugged in. It's just sitting there. No, in the past there has been some noise.
Plastic.
Yeah, exactly. It's clamped up there. Just along with my fake brick. Right here.
Dude, you should have lived that up. It looks awesome.
I know, it looks really real.
I was convinced.
Yeah, no, it looks. I'm impressed with how well that looks. I've
I
had
might
this for
have to-
years. You can go back to some of my really old videos, and it was in them. And then
I might have to take that idea.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to grab another beverage. We have a guest tonight, Emergency Survival Tips. Why don't you go ahead and log in and do this appropriate time, Eric? Is there anything else we
sure.
need to
Let me see if
discuss,
I can admit him now, I think. So he should be able to join now. If you're on, then I've
And I will
taken
be
you
right
out of the
back.
waiting room. I haven't had to do this too often, so hopefully that'll work. But if you're still watching, you should be able to go ahead and jump on, make sure your audio's on. Looks like
You bet. Should be, hopefully.
Right. Yep, I can
Maybe
hear
we
you.
can-
Sounds good.
Oh, cool.
Eric, maybe we can do the split with the monitor as well to
To who's
if
talking?
you were- yeah, instead of all three of us
Speaker
on the,
view. There you go. So now it should focus mostly on who's currently talking. It gets a little weird if people
Awesome.
talk over each other.
I'll be
but
back in a second.
Sounds good. So yeah, so why don't you want to introduce yourself real quick while he's getting a beer?
Oh, sure. I don't know. Everybody calls me Des because I'm from the Desolator Magic, Desolator Gaming, and Desolator Tech channels, but lately EST is my big project because Magic's not doing so well lately.
Really? It's had a
Yeah.
slump in popularity, I guess.
Oh, yeah. It's going downhill quick. They might be able to fix it. They might not. But, I mean, it's kind of hard to see something go 26 years and then do poorly, like this poorly, like in danger of failing completely is pretty bad.
Yeah, and I imagine, I know I was never into Magic myself, but I do know that there was some early overlap with crypto in the sense that one of the bigger early crypto exchanges was the MT Gox, which is Magic the Gathering online exchange.
Yeah, that was wild. Somebody told me that. I'm like, no, and I looked it up. That is
Oh, you
so
didn't know that? Because I
wild.
was asking, I was going to be like, is that how you got into crypto? Is if you
I had been using it for 2 years before somebody told me that, and I got my money out in time from that one. So that's
Yeah.
good. Trade Hill was a different story. I lost 40 Bitcoins there.
What?
That's fun. Yeah,
What-
they were
what
$5
year
a
was that?
piece back then. I'm like,
Okay.
$200, but I mined like 2 Bitcoins a day back then. Oh, I probably should have held on to it, man. I would have had $90 million if I would have held on.
Yeah,
my crypto.
and honestly, I've heard that, and I had some Bitcoin when it was extremely cheap as well. Probably like a few dozen, I think. But like I said, like the only way I would be mad if I was one of those people who lost them, like straight up lost the hard drive. But there's just zero chance I would have held on long enough until it was worth that much money. Like you don't think you're
everybody
selling
I
it
know
at
said
10
600
grand?
was it. I mean,
Yeah, you're not
it was
selling
at
at
600 for like a
50
year.
Right, you're not going to sell when you have 50 grand, 100 grand, $1 million worth. Like, no way anyone holds on until they have the $150 million worth. It just, I would never be able to do it.
If they are,
So
they're a time traveler.
Right. Yeah, that's the only way is if I somehow ended up back in time. And but yeah, so I don't tend to feel bad about like missed opportunities there. Like I obviously regret that I wasn't more involved and constantly putting more, because at any point you could still make a ton of money. But I don't feel like I missed out by selling a little bit years ago when if I had it now, it would be worth 200K or something, So because it's like I said, I just would never have held on to it.
Yeah. I would have sold off at least 85% when it leveled off in 2014. So it still would have been a lot. It would have been like 500,000 or something, whatever.
I mean, that'd be
Probably not
awesome.
even.
But I think that's the lesson though, is to never make 100% moves. Like never sell all of it. You know what I mean? Never go all in with, you know what I mean? Because then if you just kind of sell off as it's going up, even if it's 50% at a time, 50%, 50%, you still have a little bit left the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's usually the move, especially with something has the potential to go so far up like crypto.
Yeah, a lot of people who got out of it completely said they just didn't believe in it. They thought it was gonna crash because it went boom, crash. So they're like, oh, I'm just getting out completely before the next crash. And then there was one. They weren't wrong, but it's like, long term. That's why I thought, well, nobody wants to hold an investment for 10 years. Nobody even wants to think about it, even though people got IRAs. Right. I don't get the logic, but I mean, I
don't think there's any fear of their IRA just going to zero. You know what
That's
I mean?
true.
and I don't think that'll happen with Bitcoin, but it is a possibility. It's much more of a possibility than the entire market going to zero. So that's the concern. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think even
on a fundamental level.
But 2012, I think, was a bad time for investments. I only lost like 12% of my IRA, and then it recovered. So I'm like, whatever. Who cares?
But that does bring up the fact that Bitcoin and other cryptos are in a pretty decent slump off their highs right now. What's your outlook for that going forward? What do you think?
Oh, this is the first time where I can't pretty confidently predict it because I thought it would have recovered. I thought this Chinese stuff was a bunch of, it's like an annual tradition with them at this point where they just, we're going to do it this time. We're really going to crack down. It's like the dump and dip or whatever they call it.
What's up, Jay?
Maybe you can just explain.
Oh,
Jay's lagging. Audience, maybe you can explain what a bear and a bull market is as well.
Oh, what?
One more time. Sorry, your connection was choppy for a second there.
It was choppy. Okay, sorry. Do you think we're in a bull market or bear market? Maybe explain to the audience what the difference is between bear and a bull market.
Oh yeah, bear is like it's going to go up. You've got very good widespread evidence, not just one tiny little thing, and it's like let's get in on it. Everybody starts buying.
Bull, you mean bull.
Oh yeah, did I say bear? Bear's the slow one. Bull's the charging forward. So yeah, the bear is like, okay, well, time to go hibernate. Time to go somewhere else. Go invest in something else because there's something suppressing the buys or scaring everyone. And it's almost in both directions a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially in an unregulated market like crypto.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it is obviously sentiment, things like that play a massive role because if everyone thinks something's going to happen and they make decisions based on that, which is usually going to be to get out of it, which kind of makes it go down, and then it kind of, continues to cycle from there. So I think for me, the only big concern long term would be regulatory. You know what I mean? Like I think crypto technology, maybe not Bitcoin specifically, but blockchain, cryptos, that's here to stay unless, but if it gets regulated, there'll be some here. But central banks coming out with their own cryptocurrencies and kind of trying to push all the others out is the concern for me.
Yeah, the funny thing for that is it's never going to work because the first thing people are going to do is just collectively crash it on purpose. Because like right now, the whole defense of any network and any new thing, except Ethereum tokens, that's the exception. If you completely make your own crypto, you're basically going to just hope that people, if you've got 1,000 computers all interested in it, that somebody doesn't come in with 1,001, write a counterfeit block and say they own everything in the whole entire network. And then it's just over. You either got to fork it, roll it back, or do something drastic. So if Facebook is like, we're going to make Facebook coin, which I think they've now given up on, they better have a lot of computers. And you might think, Facebook owns a lot of computers. It pales in comparison to the size of any major network like Ethereum or Bitcoin. Like an entire country, China could just come in and say, we'd like to steal all that. Boom, come in and just crush them. I mean, it's just nuts. And it's not even about computers. It's about crypto computers. We're talking graphics cards, ASICs, that kind of stuff. So if somebody just rolls off 1,000 ASICs off their factory and just plugs them in and says, now I'm in control, it's called a 51% attack, they'll just steal everything. So you almost can't start a new crypto at this point. You'd have to go Ethereum token.
For people that are just starting out, what would you recommend? And I don't want to say what I do, but I understand your lingo completely. In basic terms, what would you recommend as somebody that's into preparedness? Maybe they want to do a little bit of investing. How would you recommend they start?
I'd say, obviously people say in any investment, it's more like a good luck kind of thing, cover your butt kind of thing. But, don't invest more than you're willing to lose. But in this case, like seriously, like you might actually lose quite a bit. People say that when you get in the stock market, they're like, well, don't invest more than you're willing to lose.
You'd be willing to use your entire retirement account. Like, no, come on. Like, no.
Yeah. And then they buy like index funds. I'm like, you're not going to lose that. Like you lose like 10%. Like, what are you talking about? If you lose your entire stock portfolio because you invested in index funds, it's because your country doesn't exist.
Yeah. That's a full on shit hit the fan. If like index funds go to zero, the entire stock market. Then you'd
with
be more
this
worried
stuff,
about
oh my gosh. You want to talk about like they're talking about retroactively cracking certain stuff. Like cracking the encryption algorithm that's used on older stuff like Burstcoin, which I think they already had a couple attacks. So somebody could just come in and just steal all funds that exist or steal 10% out of everybody's wallet in the snap. So, I mean, some of these are really wacky, but if you stick to the core ones, they're highly defensive. We're talking the ones you've heard of pretty much and not the ones that people like to hype up. But the major ones, you just look at the top 5 with the highest market cap or market valuation. And there you go. You're good with those. I mean, if everything else fails, those will be the ones that are still there,
Well,
which is what right now anyway? What would that be? Bitcoin, Ethereum.
I know Doge is top 5, which is hilarious.
Yeah, Doge.
I don't know if I'd really include that one, but
no.
Ethereum. It's Ethereum and Bitcoin and then Litecoin. Right. I'm trying to think. Is Ripple the fourth? I don't even know.
Yeah, Ripple was
No,
up there.
well, actually, yep. It depends which site you look at because there's some sites that get their data incorrect.
Tether is number
let's
3
see.
allegedly.
Tether, okay. And
Oh, Binance coin. God, I wouldn't even go near their
Polygon
company.
is up there, but I
Binance.
don't remember what.
Oh, Doge is number 6.
Okay,
Get it up there, guys. You
Which
got to
is
go to the
very
moon.
bizarre.
Let's go. Just kidding. This is not
Very,
advice.
very bizarre to me. It shows you the lack of intelligence that people have in this sphere. There's something upwards of 10,000 coins. 99% of them don't actually have any practical utility or usage. They don't. There's no fundamental behind them. It's just that people believe in their power. And Bitcoin is the grandfather. It's certainly opening the floodgates, I think, in some respects, because people that don't know anything about cryptocurrency, they know the term Bitcoin. So, and I'm happy for it. And I've had Bitcoin, it's nice to see that it's growing. What do you think? And let me ask you this, because there's one particular company that's really aggressively pushing their marketing strategy with F1, with NHL, hockey, just as recent as last week with MMA, and their logo being plastered, crypto.com. And they've got basically a like a shit coin is what the term is. It doesn't really do anything, but they've got the fastest growing app, and they've intelligently mechanized their system to sort of inadvertently point back to their coin. One example is you can get a debit Visa card, put your what's called a CRO coin, CRO, onto this debit Visa, and guess what? Now it's real because you can go anywhere in North America and take this card, and everybody, wherever Visa is accepted. So you can make your virtual cryptos, whatever, out in cyberspace.
Well, and that's kind of my
real tangible card.
That's kind of my concern with the Fed coins, and like I was talking about earlier, is that if the Federal Reserve comes up with a digital currency and they say, okay, this is now what taxes are paid in, this is now what every EBT and Social Security benefit is paid in, like all of a sudden everyone is using that now, and they say, you know what I mean? So it's not, it like instantly takes over at that point, just by them just making it the official.
Okay, I suppose, yes, absolutely, yeah, at the same time, but there's certainly going to be some competition in the private sector. I mean, the MMA deal was...
Yeah, but there's so many normies that just have nothing to do with that they're just going to use the official thing because that's what they get paid in, that's what all the official apps use, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be hard to overcome it at that point.
Hey, look, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't predict the future, but I love the marketing program that they're doing. They dumped 175 million into MMA to get that logo blasted everywhere, and
I'm shocked that they had that kind of money. But if you convince an investor to finance your thing, sure, they'll be like, crypto, that's the future. Okay.
I don't think it was an upfront pay. It was specifically with the UFC, and it's a $175 million deal. I don't know the specifics of it, but that's probably over a period of years, I assume.
10 years.
I would think,
10 years.
Yeah. Oh wow!
10 years.
I wouldn't even prepay any marketing that far in advance. That's
well, I'm assuming they're not prepaying. It's just a deal.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's just worth 175 million over the 10 years.
I still
they
wouldn't
certainly didn't just dump 175 million on them.
Everybody calls anything a contract. Just don't pay it. There, now it's not a 10-year contract. You didn't pay the next interval.
Of course, I mean, that's the way any of these things go. Just like someone's football contract or something. If they just said sorry,
they're smart. They'd use an Ethereum smart contract.
Yeah, maybe they are. Who knows?
Oh man. See, that's the thing, is I don't think it should go any wider than just, it's kind of like a really safe, secure Venmo or PayPal. Because you heard of El Salvador, they're going to roll it out like that's their new currency, is like now Bitcoins, which, as far as I know, they literally mean Bitcoins. They don't mean crypto. They mean actual Bitcoins, which that's insane. The transaction fee right now is like $7. So if you want to buy a $1 pack of gum, you got to pay a $7 transaction fee.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to use it for, they'll probably have paper currencies and stuff that represent Bitcoin or pinned to Bitcoin, but they're not going to, especially for a country as technologically unadvanced as El Salvador, it's not just going to take over every transaction. That's not what they mean. They just don't want to have their official government currency be this whatever it was. It's worthless. Yeah. You know what I mean? They want to piggyback off to something else.
I mean, if somebody's like, we're going to go to the gold standard to make it have high confidence internationally, you might as well go to crypto. It's about as reliable as gold because it's so international. It's not going anywhere, you know? Why not? But I
And
just don't like the idea of like a
technologically,
bank running it, because that's what it turns
Right.
into is like, well, we
Yeah.
can't afford to have that many transactions. So, kind of like right now, if I want to transfer money from one to another, they just kind of debit the accounts and there's no real blockchain transaction. I'm like, wait a minute. So the whole thing about crypto is transactions. Why are you just acting like a bank and digitally moving ones and zeros around in your
save
insecure
time,
system?
I imagine.
Oh yeah, it's literally just because the Bitcoin transaction fee used to be $30.
Right.
Like a couple weeks ago, like when it was 60K, it was like $30. So if I wanted to withdraw $500 from mining, I still don't want to pay $30. That's
Yes.
insane.
So they're just floating it because they're taking the risk basically that it's
Yeah, so they take the mining people's like bank account and then they go down and they take mine and go up and then call it a transaction. I'm like, but you're just a bank now. That's just old school banking. That's just databases. Right. That's not, it's so dumb. So if they're just like, oh, here's your debit card and your balances in Bitcoins and all that, but then really the bank still runs everything. I mean, that's almost better because the alternative is like trusting everybody to keep their wallet file backed up and safe and offline.
Right.
And
that's
like,
exactly
it's just on my smartphone.
I assume that that's how they're doing it. Is they're not just like everyone is now using Bitcoin like directly. It's just their official currency in the same way that a country might have an official language or something. It just allows them to make official payments and loans and all this other stuff in a currency now that is not as volatile. It's probably less volatile than the standard El Salvadorian currency, and they get to do whatever they want without worrying about that aspect of it.
Username first last says Bitcoin volatility could wipe out El Salvador's economy overnight.
Yes, pretty much.
Sure, it could, but like I said, this is the type of countries that's a risk anyway. You know what I mean? So now they're kind of off, not offshoring it, but putting that burden onto someone else. You know what I mean? It's not based on them anymore.
Like I say, gold and silver go up and down too. I mean, they've been known to spike 20, 30, 40% in like not a short or not a long period of time. So, what are you going to pay? What is stable? Nothing. I mean, you can even go physical assets. You can just go like food, corn, exports. Well, those go up and down based on demand.
And also that makes it poorly function as a currency for a lot of different reasons. Yeah. You have to have things be able to be done quickly, stable. Like you can't just store, a retirement fund worth of rice in your house or something.
Oh, says you. I have. I have too much rice. I finally did a count. And I'm like, oh, what is this? 3 months? It's like a year and a half worth of rice.
Which is awesome. And I'm there too with the rices. But that's my point. Is that how much is a year and a half of rice worth? Several $100s, maybe a couple $1,000. If you had like a $250,000 retirement fund, you can't put it in rice and beans.
Oh yeah, if you don't count the mylar, it's like $140.
Yeah, rice is even now.
It's like 300,000 calories or something, or a million calories. I don't remember.
That's why I always recommend rice as like the core of any like at least initial food storage plan, is because it stores so easily and so well, and for the price, the calories per dollar, it's just unbeatable.
Yeah, I like it. Well, the ideal setup, and if even America went to this, I don't think anybody would really mind it, is kind of, you probably heard of like pawn shops and really, really bad contract worker stuff where everything is done via a prepaid debit, If they just had the debit be like, okay, those are real crypto transactions, and then pick something like, something a little faster, because like even Litecoins, it only has, I think, 5 times the capacity per hour or something like that. And well, you overload that, you're going to be paying $50 transaction fee. So it'd have to be something that's designed better. But then you just kind of top off your balance, or just have the bank do it for you every time, which even PayPal kind of did that. Like they would front the money and then just kind of e-check debit it,
Yeah.
So if they're just like, okay, any balance on your little debit card is in crypto, but then the real backing is in, I don't know, like Bitcoins, you could split the different cryptos, have the bank convert it for you, and then you could spend it real easily, flawlessly secure. And then if you lose your card, something weird happens, you lose your private keys. Okay, we only topped up $30, whatever. So
I think
I guess it would work.
Way too advanced advanced thinking. Congrats for thinking that far ahead. But I think there's lack of education, there's lack of regulation. There's certainly a pool of people that would love to keep banks out of this fully, completely. I mean, the idea of cryptocurrency being anonymous is beautiful, because it's a I don't want to say screw the system, but a large part of quote unquote governments, media, corporations, and whatnot having a quote unquote control over people is through the monetary system. And there's one of the biggest things that sort of puts a limelight on this whole new digital asset class that is certainly not going away is how these old, white, stubborn, rich, grumpy old men are afraid of it.
Mhm.
And I love this because they can't fucking control it. They can't. Right now, we're in the wild west of something that it's brand new. It's going to revolutionize the way that we interact with respect to finances, and it's beautiful. We're at the foundation, and we could talk about this endlessly for the next year, 2 years, and there's so much gray. There's so many unknowns, and I just love that I'm getting into it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to make a lot of fucking money.
And also it's unique for preparedness reasons specifically because it presents a lot of opportunities and challenges. Like we've talked about before, the things you can do with crypto, like if you needed to leave the country at a moment's notice or something,
Yeah.
crypto makes that a lot easier than even gold and silver. And then there's the other side of the coin, whereas if the power goes out, crypto is fairly useless in most situations, whereas gold and silver, you have nothing's changed with it. So there's a lot of advantages and downsides that you have to address, but there's definitely opportunities for sure.
Yeah, smaller countries, I would go heavier in Bitcoin than I'd say for the major countries because they're less likely to have a full economic collapse. But it's like if you gotta leave, it's Bitcoin is like the opposite of FedEx. Like it's you send it and nobody's gonna stop you, and it is 100% gonna get to the target.
Right.
And that's that. So
okay,
that's
let
the
me ask you
inherent
this.
value.
We've got user base right now. They're interested getting into Bitcoin. I think we are still in a bull market where we haven't seen the end of this cycle yet. Where would you put the audience? Not financial advice. It's not financial advice, but we got an audience member. I'm sure they're out there. Somebody's going to watch this and they got $100 or $200. Which cryptocurrency would you tell them or suggest they put there?
Assuming they own enough guns and food and water filters already, I'd say
they've got some money. Which one specifically?
Smart people watch this, so I shouldn't have even said that.
Right.
Of course they do, but probably Ethereum, just because of the token system. I think you give it 20 years, Ethereum will have a higher valuation than Bitcoin. Yeah.
I
don't necessarily disagree, especially because Bitcoin is so much of it's on like name recognition, first mover advantage type thing, and not on fundamentals of the coin, that I would not be surprised to see one of these technically more sophisticated coins pass it up, or many of them,
Yeah. I mean, for now, I thought there's an Ethereum competitor. It probably is Tether. I always forget which one it is, but they both do all the smart stuff. They both let you make your own sub tokens and all that. I'm like, okay, that's useful. It's nice. It's not going anywhere because so much stuff is tied to it that it's like too big to fail. But then I'm worried about quantum computers just coming and just wrecking everything. And I read an article about why that would never happen, but it's also like completely wrong. And I almost wonder if they had like a motivation behind writing that article. Like, it's fine, guys. The government's not going to come in with their secret quantum computers and steal all your crypto, right, even though everything they said in the article was wrong.
Yeah, so that's obviously a risk. We just don't know what the timeline is for. And you have to look at the other side too. When they have the quantum computing, you might be able to use that and to help set up defenses on the other side too.
That's what they said. They said, well, we'll move the blockchain to quantum whatever. I'm like, the government and the military have it first though.
Yeah.
So you'd have to beat them to it, which is not going to happen.
If they decided to like they might have the ability to do it first, doesn't necessarily mean they would just go, haha, and just go in and drain everyone's crypto's account. Like there wouldn't necessarily be an advantage for doing that. Here's
the thing with the two previous cycles of cryptocurrency since they've been in existence is I don't think, based on the information I know, I don't think anybody can really go wrong. We're talking about the top 10. Even if a Doge, this useless nonsense coin, Tether, Binance coin you mentioned, Ethereum, Bitcoin, I think they all run in tandem, which means that they're all going to rise up to the top. What I would suggest people look out for is before the end of the year, anyways. It's based on my research thus far, is Bitcoin will be the first one to, if and when we do go, I strongly believe that we're going to go back up to a higher point. Bitcoin's going to be the first one to go up because of that recognition. So
Yeah,
if you have
definitely.
other coins, in the works, they're going to eventually follow suit as well. Interesting.
Yeah, the buy and hold people hit Bitcoin. I mean, that's why it's at 641 billion. Even Tether is at 62 billion. That's 1/10. So, I mean, people who are just like, I want to buy it and hold it, they don't care what the transaction fees are. They already know that like 97% of all Bitcoins have already been created because of the like logarithmic reduction or whatever. So that they're like, that's the one. So that's like you're never going to change gold standard index meta currency for everything else,
For now.
Yeah.
I would say for now, I would paint this picture for the audience, in that it's moving on a freight train of brand recognition. When people think crypto, they know the term Bitcoin. They don't know XLM. They don't know all these sort of underground coins that have more utility, that work. They're superior in terms of the technology behind them. They're not as easily hacked. I mean, the energy used to mine Bitcoin is hilarious. I mean, like, there's some small countries in Europe that use less energy to quote unquote mine this. It's archaic. It's like Bitcoin is like the grandfather, and the grandson is some of the new ones that are coming out. So it's not going away, and I think there's a lot of money to be made. I think I don't want to say yes or no on a particular crypto for myself, but when it does peak or go up, Bitcoin will certainly be the first one to go up, in my opinion. And I don't think, if we're looking at this historically, this will be the third sort of cycle that we're going through. They're all going to go up. They all have in the past.
Yeah, they all follow each other. There's a little variance based on use, but back in the day, especially, it would be like monitored by bots. People would enforce that they go up by the same amount. Like Litecoin would always go up when Bitcoin went up, and just everything was a meta currency of Bitcoin. It's still true to a little bit, but I got to look up how that Ethereum gassing thing works with creating your own tokens, because I'm pretty sure it basically forces people who want to use and operate and make a token to buy Ethereum. But if you're forcing people to make a buy order that they didn't want to buy, that's a good, that's good for the price. That's for sure. So, hey, why not? But I mean, if I were to say, if you want to like, I missed the bus, I might make 10%, but I want to make 100,000%, on crypto. Over in Europe, somebody made these dumb new altcoins that are just tokens of Ethereum that represent soccer teams, football teams. And they ended up doing really, really well because people want to put money behind their team. And whether it's illegal or illegal to sports bet in their country, they could still just, I'm just buying the crypto. It's an investment, not a bet, And so in America, it wouldn't be regulated. It's just, it's a market, it's an exchange. So if they roll out something like that for the NFL, I would buy into that as early as humanly possible. I'm going to buy the Packer coins, man. I'm from Wisconsin. You ain't really a Packer fan unless you got money on the game. You know what I mean? Like, we take it hardcore. So that would be the one I would watch for it to shoot just astronomical right when the season starts.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think when there's that connection or correlation between a specific cryptocurrency and somebody's passion towards a sport or something that they do, like crypto. Yep. This is why I'm not a big crypto.com guy. I actually ironically dumped a bunch of money into them because I like their marketing strategy. They're dumping millions of dollars into all these different sports. Hockey. Okay. So if you're not into, you're not a Packers fan, but you're into I think it was the Montreal Canadiens, that there's some sort of arrangement. It's to get their logo out there. They just want to put it over their face. But we're wrapping up here in a second. Maybe for the audience, if they have any interest, I'll just, for my own amusement, your own amusement, I'm going to unplug my headset here and show you something I'm working on in terms of a bot to look deeper into the crypto sphere space.
Oh, cool.
So, how's my audio? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so as an example, this is just something I'm working on right now, which is to monitor exponential growth through Twitter, because any crypto talk videos that are out there, anything on YouTube, people talking, first off, 90% of the information is garbage. Mm-hmm.
mostly it's about what people are talking about. What are the people? Where do people reference what we're talking about? It's Twitter. So what I'm doing here, this is just from the other day, is I'm taking snapshots of actual tweets. I've got about 1 million users on Twitter, filtered down to about 40,000 that are invested in crypto. So I'm using the Bitcoin account as an example, and I'm monitoring different tweets, the date and time, retweets, favorites, replies, quoted. And I've got a term here called exponential growth potential, which I've assigned with a specific number, snapshot at a specific time, and then look at it in the future, and same information. And what I'm going to do is basically monitor or look for exponential, create a robot to look for exponential growth in a tweet, cross-reference that with a cloud of words that have to do with crypto, basically use a robot to say, monitor Twitter. Is something becoming popular very quickly that I should dump some money into, and automatically put money into a specific cryptocurrency because people are talking about it. So is there something there? Who knows, but it's better than just sort of scratching your head and dumping money into some coin. And then ironically, it shows you how much intelligence is behind these cryptocurrencies when you see Dogecoin in the top 10. People really don't know what the hell this thing's all about. But if I can monitor or see exponential growth with a specific cryptocurrency, guess what? I'm going to dump some money in there. I don't care if it doesn't do anything. If people are dumb enough to believe in something that isn't real and I can profit from that, then I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, people back in the day used to use that Google Trends stuff to buy stocks, and it really worked. It's all about buzz. It's whatever people are talking about, whatever's in the news. They wrote bots to scrape news sites, scrape Twitter, social media, everything. And they're just like, what are people talking about? I'm buying it. But it would be like company names. It does work for crypto from what I heard back in the day. People would do that on the forums. So it should work. So what are you going to do when you're a super ultra rich billionaire when it works out for you? You buy something for a penny and it hits 1,000.
Me personally,
you should buy your own island and call it Che Island.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's funny. My relationship with money changed last January. I never cared about money because time is the most valuable resource. And I'll tell you what, I didn't care about money. I never cared about money because what are you doing with money? Oh, buy a Lamborghini. Oh, I'll buy a big house. Like it's all time. Like if you break things down, it's all the moments. People are too busy either fantasizing about the future or worried about some bullshit in the past. They forget. They don't know to live now. And the cesspool of social media and all this other garbage that's taking away our attention span isn't doing us any good, because we're going from like 7 seconds of being focused on something to 5 seconds to 4 seconds to 3 seconds where people can actually hold on and engage. You ever had I don't know if you got kids or not, it's none of my business, but people don't appreciate even sitting down and having a meal anymore. They've got to put on this fucking device and stare at it.
That's why I'm glad I was born in 87, because it's just right before the internet, right before, my TV, we had to mess with the ears and clunk the buttons and, watch commercials
it's not
call people on the phone,
I'll put it this way. I'm going to come up with a very, very special live presentation in September about a great reset, and I will be happy to go into why I suddenly have this profound motivation to make a shit ton of money. But I don't. I would have been happy just doing my own thing, being underground, but for some reason I feel I need to make $1 million now. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, I just don't want to work because I want to, have fun, go fishing, and have a family and pay for my kids' education. It's like, but past that, anybody who wants to go past that, they got a problem. A lot of these CEOs, they have an actual mental disorder.
Well, sure. I mean, you could look at it statistically and say CEOs, 90% of them are whatever, sociopathic or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they have that drive and that determination. I don't know, like people think of money, and this is why I love preparedness. People think that money is survival. And in some respects, it's the illusion of survival. The more money you have, it's the illusion that your kids will be better off and you're going to have a better wife which is superficial. If you think about it, if your wife is picking you because of how much money you have, and you take that money away, then what do you have? You don't have much.
Yeah, exactly. I
So-
know plenty of rich people who are obsessed with just more, and then everybody hates them because they're a terrible
But
person.
that's
It's
it.
like,
I mean, what's this game?
What
This
do you
rat
got?
race?
You got nothing.
Where are we going with this, right? Continue on until what? Right? Until you have people praising you like some sort of messiah? Like, where does it
Yeah.
end?
you got to wonder
know?
if that's what some of these people are going for, where they're like, it's not about money, but they're very clearly trying to be like really famous historically. It's like, come
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
never
think it is.
cared.
I don't think it is about money. I think it's a compulsion that they have. I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Destiny says money is power. I mean, power for what? Power over the people? Power for what? Who cares?
Well, that's why
Make it
so
up to
many of
get-
them are like, what do I do now? And they go, spend
Yeah,
their
see.
way into a whole bunch of political campaigns because, like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change society to what I think it should be. I hate people like that. Except the conservatives. It's just, it never is. It's always the liberals dumping money into that stuff.
Bloombergs of the world.
Money's time. Money's time. You guys heard my ramble. Listen, thanks for listening to that speech. I do have a special message, though.
Hit it.
I have a stalker, and she knows who she is, and she watches everything that I do. And I just wanted to say, you have the face that looks like a pig's rectum. Thank you. Good night, everybody. I'm Shay, Prepper Logic. Thank you for joining us tonight, man. I appreciate it.
I got like 10 stalkers, man. Just wait. If you get more subs, you're going to find out how crazy society really is.
Yeah, you got to get those groupies, man. But yeah, thanks for joining us. It was fun. Everyone, we should be back next week. No issues. Check out the website to make sure, because we'll try to post there.
We don't do
updates.
Eric doesn't know the website. It's like, check out the website.
PrepperTrifecta.com, right? Is it
Yeah,
not?
Something like that.
It's
I
just
don't know. Google
it's
it.
just PrepperTrifecta.com, right?
Yeah, stay on the line there. Emergency survival tips after we end the
Okay.
show. We're gonna have a chat here.
Yeah. So I will. Thanks for watching, everybody.